I want you to take just a second right now. Look at the device you are using to listen to this deep dive.
Yeah, literally just look at it. Focus on it.
Like whether it is a smartphone sitting in the palm of your hand or maybe a laptop on your desk, or if you're just listening through headphones while you walk, just really look at it.
Focus on the physical, solid object.
Exactly. Because the very device that is, delivering our voices to your ears right now is powered by a fundamental lie.
Well, yeah, or to be slightly more generous, it is powered by a massive, mind-bending misunderstanding of reality itself.
Right. A complete illusion.
It is a profound misunderstanding. And the terrifying part is that we implicitly accept it. Every single time we turn on a screen or plug something into a wall.
Or even just trust that the floor beneath our feet is going to hold us up, right?
Exactly. We just blindly accept the illusion of the everyday physical world.
And that illusion is exactly what we are here to shatter today. We're taking everything we've gathered for this deep dive, mountains of research, quantum mechanical data, historical physics debates.
The heavy stuff.
The really heavy stuff. All to investigate something you interact with every single second of your life. We are talking about the electron.
The quantum ghost.
Right. And going into this research, I had this immense enthusiasm. I was thinking, let's learn how computers work. Let's learn about electricity.
It sounds so practical at first.
It does. But honestly, the deeper I dug into the sources, that enthusiasm completely morphed into a genuine sense of existential dread.
Which, to be fair, is the only appropriate reaction. Honestly, if you aren't terrified by quantum mechanics, you just haven't understood it yet.
Oh, totally. It is genuinely upsetting.
Because when you look closely at what is actually happening at the foundational level of our universe, it violently contradicts everything our biological senses tell us is true.
It just completely breaks the rules.
Completely. We're going to examine concepts today that defy all logic, break the laws of cause and effect, and yet they are the absolute building blocks of your body and your entire world.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to even begin to understand how bizarre this all is, we have to start by completely unlearning basically everything we were taught in grade school.
Oh, the great lie of fifth grade science class.
Yes, everyone remembers this, right? The teacher hands you a big styrofoam ball, some wire, maybe some smaller painted styrofoam balls.
Right, and you build a physical model of an atom, the classic Bohr model.
The solar system model. You stick the nucleus in the center, acting like the sun.
And you loop those little wires around it and string the electrons onto the wires so they orbit in these neat, predictable circular paths.
Just like tiny planets. I vividly remember painting my little electron balls blue. That is the visual I have carried in my head my entire life.
Most people do.
This idea that the world is made of tiny, predictable little machines. But all the data we've pulled for this deep dive says that visual is completely, unequivocally wrong.
It's worse than wrong. It's a complete fabrication.
Right. Electrons do not orbit. They do not travel in straight lines. And this is the part that first triggered my panic response, by the way.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Until they are actually looked at, they don't even exist in a single defined location. I mean, it makes me feel completely betrayed by my education. Why do we teach kids a model that fundamentally misrepresents reality?
Well, because the actual truth is impossible to conceptualize without advanced probability matrices. It's a convenient fiction.
So we just lie to kids because the math is too hard.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The solar system model makes intuitive sense to a human brain. We understand gravity and balls and orbits.
Right. It feels safe.
Exactly. But the reality is that the electron doesn't exist as a tiny blue styrofoam ball.
Yeah.
It exists as a cloud of probabilities.
A cloud of probabilities. And the contrast is what I just can't get over. Like, electrons bind our very DNA together. They create the electrical impulses in your brain that are allowing you to understand my words right now as you listen to this. They form the physical structure of literally everything we touch.
Right, because atoms are mostly empty space.
Exactly. If you knock on a wooden door, it feels solid, but it's actually just the electrons in the door repelling the electrons in your hand.
It's just electromagnetic force.
So the things doing all this heavy lifting in the physical, solid world act like literal ghosts. They teleport. They exist in multiple places at once.
The dividing line between what we know and what we understand is razor thin here. Like, when physicists isolate an electron, they can observe what it does.
Sure, we can measure it.
We can measure its mass, its charge. But the brightest minds in human history, Einstein, Feynman, Bohr, right up to the people operating supercolliders today, they have absolutely no idea why the electron behaves this way.
Not at all.
The electron is this incomprehensible bridge. On one side, you have the physical, macroscopic world you can touch. On the other side, you have a quantum realm that just, well, it actively mocks human comprehension.
It's like we've perfectly mapped the ghost's haunting grounds, but we have absolutely no clue what the ghost actually is.
That's a great way to put it.
Which brings up a huge problem for me. If these things don't behave like normal objects, if they don't move in straight lines or even have a specific location, how did we even figure out they were acting like ghosts in the first place?
You have to force them to make a choice.
But if something actively defies the rules of reality, how do you measure it?
Well, to understand how we discover this, we have to talk about the most famous and, frankly, the most disturbing experiment in modern physics.
The double-slit experiment.
The double-slit experiment. It is the cornerstone of quantum mechanics because it proved just how profoundly broken our understanding of the universe was.
It's a total nightmare. Honestly, reading about the observer effect in this section of the research kept me up at night.
It should. It breaks everything.
Let's really visualize this for everyone listening. I want to spend some time here because it's so important. Let's start with a macroscopic analogy. Imagine you have a paintball gun.
Okay, a classical physics machine. It fires solid, predictable projectiles.
Exactly. You are holding this paintball gun and you are aiming it at a large metal wall. But right in the middle of this wall, there are two vertical slits cut into it, two doorways.
It's like two narrow rectangular gaps.
Right. And behind that first metal wall is a blank white canvas. Now, if you stand there and just fire 100 paintballs randomly at the wall, what happens?
Most of them hit the metal and splatter.
Yeah. But the ones that happen to pass through the slits will carry on and hit the canvas in the back. Because there are two slits, you are going to get two distinct vertical bands of paint on the back canvas.
It's basic cause and effect. You are firing solid particles.
They travel in a straight line.
Right. They travel through physical space, they pass through a physical opening, and they strike the surface behind it in a pattern that directly matches the openings. Two slits equal two bands.
Marbles, bullets, paintballs, they all obey this law. Perfectly logical.
Right, classical mechanics.
So physicists decided to scale this exact setup down to the quantum level to see what electrons do. They built a device that fires single electrons.
Not a beam of them.
Right, not a continuous beam. One individual electron at a time. They fired them toward a microscopic barrier with two tiny slits with a highly sensitive detector screen on the other side.
And since an electron is a piece of matter, a particle with mass, they fully expected to see the quantum equivalent of the paintball experiment.
They expected two distinct bands building up on the detector screen.
But that is not what happens.
Not even close. When they checked the screen after firing thousands of individual electrons, like one by one, they didn't find two bands.
They found an interference pattern.
An interference pattern, a series of multiple bands spreading all the way across the back screen, alternating stripes of hit, miss, hit.
We really need to pause and emphasize why this is so impossible. An interference pattern is a signature characteristic of a wave, not a solid particle.
Right, like a wave of water.
Think about dropping two stones into a calm pond side by side. The ripples, the waves expand outward. Where the peak of one wave meets the peak of another, they amplify.
They create a bigger wave.
Yes. That's constructive interference. Where a peak meets a trough, they cancel each other out. That's destructive interference.
I guess I followed that.
So if you send a water wave through two slits, the waves emerge from the other side, crash into each other, and create that exact pattern of multiple bands on the back wall.
Wait, stop. I get how a wave does that, because a wave is a continuous thing that splits and crashes into itself. But in the lab, they weren't firing waves. They were firing solid particles, and they were firing them one by one.
Yes, one at a time.
There was no other electron in the chamber for it to crash into. So how on earth can a single isolated particle create a wave pattern?
This is where classical physics dies. The mathematics governing this outcome suggested a reality so disturbing that many physicists initially just refused to believe it.
I would too. It doesn't make any sense.
The only way to explain the interference pattern when firing single particles is that the individual electron was not traveling as a solid object.
So what was it doing?
As it left the gun and approached the slits, it dissolved into a wave of pure probability.
A wave of pure probability. What does that even mean in physical space?
It means the electron didn't go through the left slit, and it didn't go through the right slit.
Okay.
The mathematics demand that the single electron pass through both slits simultaneously. It existed in a state of superposition.
It went through both at the same time.
Yes, it went through both, interfered with its own probability wave on the other side, and finally, at the exact moment it hit the back wall, all those probabilities collapsed.
And it manifested back into a single physical particle to make a dot on the screen.
Exactly.
It goes through both doors at the exact same time, crashes into its own ghost, and then splatters on the wall as a single physical object. That alone breaks my brain.
It defies all macroscopic logic.
But the story doesn't end there, because obviously the scientists running this were completely baffled. They thought, this is absurd. A particle cannot go through two doors at once.
We need to see exactly which slit the electron is actually going through.
A completely rational scientific impulse. If the mechanism is hidden, you shine a light on it. You place measuring devices at the slits.
Right. You observe it.
Right. So they set up little detectors right at the two slits. Not to block the electrons, just to passively watch them. To definitively say, it went through the left one.
A simple measurement.
So they turn on the detectors and they fire the single electrons again. But the very second they turn those detectors on, the moment they merely observe the electron completely changed its behavior.
It stopped acting like a wave.
It just stopped. With the detectors turned on, the electrons suddenly formed just two solid bands on the back screen. Exactly like the paintballs.
It reverted to a classical particle.
I am genuinely terrified by this. The universe knows when it is being watched. How does a tiny piece of matter know that a machine is recording its position?
This raises an important question, and it is honestly the central philosophical nightmare of quantum mechanics. The collapse of the wave function. When the electron is unobserved, it exists as a wave of probability, a superposition of all possible locations. But the instant observation is introduced, that wave function collapses.
The universe is literally forced to choose a single defined reality.
Exactly. Observation forces reality to pick a state.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here. Does reality even exist in a fixed state when we aren't looking at it? Or is it like a video game that only renders the graphics when your character turns the camera in that direction to save processing power?
It's an incredibly apt analogy, actually. We are taught that the universe is objective. A rock is a rock, whether you look at it or not.
Right, that's what we all assume.
But the double-slit experiment implies that at the foundational level of reality, the physical world requires an observer to be real. It implies that reality is not a fixed construct, but an interactive participatory process.
But wait, push back on this for a second. Let's be skeptical. How do you detect an electron without interfering with it?
The physical interference argument.
Yeah, aren't these detectors just hitting the electron with light? Like photons. If I throw a tennis ball at you in the dark to see where you are, the tennis ball is going to alter your path.
That is true in classical mechanics.
So couldn't the measuring device just be physically bumping the electron and breaking the wave?
That was the immediate counter-argument proposed by physicists who wanted to save classical reality. They desperately wanted that to be the answer.
Because it would mean the universe makes sense again.
Exactly. But later experiments, like the quantum eraser and interaction-free measurements, proved that physical bumping isn't the cause.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We can deduce which path the electron took without ever physically interacting with the particle at all, simply by entangling it with another particle.
So no photons hitting it, no bumping.
Nothing. And even then, even when there is zero physical force applied, just having the information available about its path causes the wave function to collapse.
Wait, really? Just the information?
Just the information. It is the information itself, the knowledge of the path, that destroys the wave.
So the mere potential for human knowledge dictates whether matter acts as a physical object or a ghostly wave. That is deeply, deeply unsettling.
It changes how you view everything around you.
It really does. But if you think a particle knowing when it's being watched is bad, we haven't even talked about how they interact with solid objects.
Right. Defying observation isn't enough.
Exactly. Because defying the nature of existence wasn't enough, electrons also have to defy solid architecture.
Quantum tunneling. Or how to walk through a wall.
Let's set this up with another classical analogy. Think about a tennis ball again. You have a tennis ball and you are standing in front of a 10-foot-thick concrete wall.
Okay.
You throw the ball at the wall. What happens? It bounces back. Classical physics says that unless you throw that ball with enough kinetic energy to literally shatter the concrete.
To smash the structural bonds of the wall.
Right. Unless you do that, that ball cannot pass through the barrier.
The energy at the barrier is greater than the kinetic energy of the object. Passage is strictly forbidden by the laws of thermodynamics and classical mechanics.
Forbidden for a tennis ball. But the electron simply does not care.
Not even a little bit.
If an electron is traveling and it hits a barrier that mathematically it absolutely does not have the energy to cross or break every once in a while, it won't bounce back.
It just ignores the barrier.
It will simply vanish from one side of the barrier and instantly reappear on the other side.
Crucially, we have to clarify what is not happening here. It is not finding a microscopic hole in the wall.
It's not sneaking through a crack.
No, it is not going over the wall.
Yeah.
It is not breaking the wall. The probability wave of the electron hits the barrier, and a tiny sliver of that wave bleeds through to the other side.
It just sort of seeps through reality.
Essentially, yes. Which means there's a non-zero probability of the electron existing on the far side of an impenetrable wall. And sometimes the universe rolls the dice, and the electron just instantly manifests over there.
But hold on, where does the energy come from? If it takes 10 units of energy to cross a wall, and the electron only has 2 units of energy, it's mathematically bankrupt.
It is.
How does it pay the toll to teleport?
It borrows it. This is tied to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. At the quantum level, you can borrow energy from the vacuum of space itself as long as you pay it back incredibly quickly.
From the vacuum, like from nothing.
Well, the vacuum isn't empty. The universe is constantly boiling with quantum fluctuations. The electron essentially takes a microscopic payday loan of energy from the vacuum.
A payday loan.
Yeah, it uses that borrowed energy to phase through the impenetrable barrier and then instantly returns the energy on the other side.
Unbelievable.
It violates the classical law of conservation of energy for a fraction of a nanosecond to achieve the impossible.
Taking a payday loan from the vacuum of space to walk through a solid wall, just wild. But here's the thing that really stopped me in my tracks when I was reading the sources.
It's not just a lab trick.
No, this isn't just a parlor trick happening in billion-dollar particle accelerators. This specific impossible phenomenon is the only reason you, the listener, are currently alive.
Without quantum tunneling, the universe would be dark and cold.
Because it's how the sun works. In the core of our sun, you have an unfathomable number of hydrogen protons.
And they're all positively charged.
Right. And if you've ever played with magnets, you know that if you try to push 2 positive ends together, they violently repel each other.
The electromagnetic force pushes them apart.
Now, the sun's core is incredibly hot and pressurized. But mathematically, even with all that heat, those protons do not possess enough kinetic energy to overcome that electromagnetic repulsion and smash together to fuse.
Classical physics explicitly says the sun shouldn't be able to burn.
By the laws of classical thermodynamics, the protons should just bounce off each other's electromagnetic force fields forever. We shouldn't have sunlight.
But we do, because of quantum tunneling.
Yes. A certain percentage of those protons hit that invisible wall of repulsion, borrow energy from the vacuum, and simply phase right through the barrier into each other.
They tunnel through the repulsion.
They tunnel through, fuse together, and release the massive amounts of energy and sunlight that powers the Earth. If particles couldn't walk through walls, the sun would instantly extinguish.
And we haven't just observed this happening in stars, we've commodified it.
Yeah.
We have harnessed this exact mechanism to build the modern digital age.
Yes. The flash drive. When I saw how flash drives actually work, I almost threw mine out the window.
It's a perfect example of engineering around a mystery. Inside a solid-state drive or a USB stick, data is stored in billions of microscopic components called floating gate transistors.
Explain exactly how that works, because the physical mechanics of it are just mind-blowing.
So imagine a microscopic cage made of an insulating material, usually silicon oxide. It is an impenetrable physical and electrical wall.
A tiny, inescapable prison.
Right. To write data to store a binary 1 instead of a 0, we need to trap electrons inside that cage. But we don't have doors to the cage.
So how do you get them in?
Engineers apply a specific voltage to the transistor. This voltage doesn't give the electrons enough energy to break through the silicon oxide wall, but it alters the probability wave of the electrons just enough that they quantum tunnel through the solid wall and materialize inside the cage.
Wow.
And when you remove the voltage, the probability drops and the electrons are trapped inside, holding your data.
So when I drag and drop a family photo onto my thumb drive, I am literally forcing billions of ghostly particles to teleport through solid, microscopic walls into little cages.
Yes. We apply the voltage, the math dictates a predictable percentage of them will tunnel through, and we capture them.
That is insane.
We are actively utilizing quantum teleportation every time we save a file. We've built an entire global technology infrastructure reliant on a phenomenon that fundamentally breaks classical physics.
Which naturally leads me to wonder, like, if these things can vanish, turn into probability waves, and ignore solid architecture entirely, what do they actually look like?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. If you could hold an electron in your hand, what is its physical shape?
This is where we have to confront the limits of human imagination. You are trying to assign classical geometry to a quantum entity.
I want it to be a tiny ball.
I know, but to prove how spectacularly that fails, we have to talk about quantum spin.
The mind-bending paradox of spin. Let's dig into this, because physicists tell us that electrons have a property called spin. But all the research immediately drops this massive caveat that feels like a prank.
The electron isn't actually spinning.
It's not spinning at all.
It is a terrible misnomer. But historically, it's understandable why they called it that.
Right, because physicists observe that an electron has a magnetic field, and it acts exactly as if it has the angular momentum of a spinning object, like a top.
Yes, it has angular momentum.
In our normal world, if a physical ball spins, it generates angular momentum. So they assumed, the tiny ball is spinning on its axis.
But then they applied the mathematics of Einstein's theory of relativity to that assumption, and the entire model collapsed catastrophically.
Walk us through the math on that. Why can't it just be a spinning sphere?
Well, to generate the specific measurable magnetic moment that an electron has, the sphere would have to be spinning incredibly fast.
How fast?
Well, we know the rough upper limits of an electron's size.
Yeah.
It's unfathomably small. If you calculate how fast a sphere that small would have to spin to generate that exact magnetic field, the equator of that tiny sphere would be rotating substantially faster than the speed of light.
And nothing can move faster than the speed of light, period.
Precisely. Therefore, the electron cannot be a physical sphere. The currently accepted model in the standard model of particle physics is that the electron is a point particle.
A point particle.
It has no physical volume whatsoever. It is a zero-dimensional point in space.
Wait, hold on, stop, slow down.
I know, it's a lot.
How can a point with 0 dimensions, no volume, and no surface have angular momentum? That physically makes zero sense. You cannot spin a dimensionless dot.
It makes absolutely zero physical sense. It is spinning without spinning. It possesses the intrinsic angular momentum of a rotating object without being an object that can physically rotate.
It's like a riddle.
But the strangeness doesn't stop with its lack of volume. It's the geometry of the spin itself that truly breaks the brain.
Right, the spin 12 problem. Let's try to visualize this. Think about a coffee mug sitting on your desk right now.
A standard three-dimensional object in our macroscopic reality.
If you take that coffee mug and you rotate it 360 degrees, one full, complete circle, what happens? It looks exactly the same as when you started.
The handle is back where it was.
You've returned it to its original state.
That is the geometric reality of our universe. 360 degrees of rotation brings you back to the beginning.
But an electron is a spin 12 particle. That means if you take an electron and you rotate it 360 degrees, one full circle, it does not return to its original state.
It doesn't.
It is somehow mathematically inverted. You have to rotate an electron 720 degrees, 2 full, complete circles, just to get it back to its original state.
2 full rotations.
I spent an hour trying to imagine this. I tried picturing an object where you spin it all the way around, looking at the exact same side you started on, but somehow it looks completely different. It's impossible.
Your struggle is entirely validated. It is possible to picture. But to give you a macroscopic crutch, physicists sometimes use what's called the Dirac belt trick, or the plate trick.
Oh, I've seen the plate trick. It's wild. Explain how that works.
Imagine a waiter holding a tray or a plate flat on his palm facing up. Now, he wants to rotate the plate 360 degrees without dropping it or turning his hand over.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
He twists his arm inwards, brings his hand under his armpit, and extends it outward. The plate has rotated 360 degrees, but his arm is now completely twisted into an agonizing knot.
Right, his shoulder's all locked up.
The system is not back to its original state. To untwist his arm and return to normal, he has to keep going, swinging his hand over his head to complete a second 360-degree rotation.
So 720 degrees total.
Yes. Only then is his arm untwisted and the plate back to normal.
Okay, that actually helps a lot. The object itself might rotate once, but its relationship to the environment around it is tangled up until it goes around a second time.
Exactly. The electron's spin is profoundly tied to the fabric of space-time around it. It is pure, unadulterated mathematical abstraction made manifest in a physical property.
It just doesn't belong in our 3D world.
It is as if the universe is running on a hidden line of code that produces geometry completely alien to the three-dimensional world we live in.
Mathematical abstraction made manifest. It's like the universe is just flexing on us at this point.
It really is.
But as impossible as a single electron is to visualize with its dimensionless, non-spinning spin, the real rule-breaking happens when two of these ghosts interact.
Entanglement. This is where the foundational fabric of reality truly begins to unravel.
Spooky action at a distance. Let's really dive deep into this, because this is the concept that literally kept Albert Einstein awake at night.
He absolutely hated it.
When two electrons interact under specific conditions, their quantum states become linked. They merge into one mathematical wave function. They become entangled.
They cease to be two entirely independent individual particles. They become a single, unified quantum system, regardless of the physical space separating them.
And that physical space part is the absolute kicker here. To grasp this, let's look at a thought experiment. Imagine we have two entangled electrons. We've linked them in a lab.
Okay, they're part of the same wave function now.
Now, we separate them. We put one electron in a highly secured, isolated vacuum chamber in Tokyo, and we take the other entangled electron, put it on a rocket, and shoot it to a laboratory on Mars.
So we now have an average distance of 140 million miles separating these two particles.
Right, millions of miles of cold, empty space. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's say a scientist in the Tokyo lab measures her electron.
She observes it.
She checks that non-spinning spin we just talked about, and she observes that the spin is pointing up. The moment she does that, the wave function collapses.
It chooses a state.
But because they are entangled, the very instant she measures her electron as up, she instantly knows that the electron on Mars has collapsed into a down state.
The quantum states must balance. If one is up, the other must be down. Conservation of angular momentum demands it.
But the horrifying part isn't the balance, it's the timing. The response on Mars is instantaneous.
Not close to the speed of light.
No, zero time delay. The exact fraction of a millisecond the Tokyo electron collapses to up, the Mars electron becomes down.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this exact phenomenon is what sparked the greatest debate in the history of physics. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance.
Because it completely broke his own rules.
Exactly. It violated the core pillar of his entire life's work. Relativity states that nothing in the universe, not mass, not energy, and crucially, not even information can travel faster than the speed of light.
It's the ultimate speed limit.
The speed of light isn't just how fast a photon moves. It is the absolute speed limit of causality in the cosmos. If the sun suddenly disappeared right now, Earth wouldn't plunge into darkness for 8 minutes.
We wouldn't even lose the sun's gravitational pull for 8 minutes.
Right. But with quantum entanglement, that speed limit is entirely ignored.
The electron on Mars knows what happened to the electron in Tokyo in 0.0 seconds, faster than light could ever hope to travel.
Yes.
But how? Einstein couldn't accept that, right? Didn't he argue there had to be some hidden mechanism we just weren't seeing?
He did. This is the famous EPR paradox. Einstein argued for hidden variables.
What does that mean?
His argument was essentially this. Imagine I have a pair of gloves, a left glove and a right glove. I put them in two identical sealed boxes. I shuffle the boxes, keep one in Tokyo, and send one to Mars.
Okay, so I don't know which box has which glove.
Right. When the scientist in Tokyo opens her box and finds the left glove, she instantly knows the box on Mars contains the right glove.
Oh, I see.
No information traveled faster than light. The state of the gloves was predetermined the moment they were packed. Einstein argued electrons were like the gloves. They had a hidden, pre-programmed state we just couldn't measure yet.
Okay, that makes perfect logical sense. It restores sanity to the universe. It means the electron isn't a ghost communicating faster than light. It's just following a pre-written script.
It would have been very comforting if that were true.
So, why is Einstein wrong?
Because of John Stuart Bell. In the 1960s, he formulated a mathematical proof known as Bell's theorem, which gave us a way to physically test if the gloves in a box analogy was true.
This is the part that is notoriously difficult to explain, but it is so crucial. How do you test if a particle has a secret plan?
By measuring them at different angles. With the gloves, checking the left glove always tells you the other is the right glove. But with electrons, you can measure their spin along different axes.
Like vertical, horizontal, diagonal.
Exactly. Bell proved mathematically that if the electrons had pre-programmed instructions, hidden variables, the correlation between their measurements across different angles would have a strict mathematical limit, an upper boundary.
A maximum amount they could agree with each other.
Right.
But when we actually ran the experiment,
The experimental results smashed right through that boundary.
oh, wow.
The correlation between the entangled particles was far too strong to be explained by pre-programmed instructions. Bell's inequality was violated. The gloves-in-a-box theory was dead.
So they aren't pre-programmed.
No, the particles genuinely do not decide their state until the exact moment of measurement, and yet they perfectly correlate with each other instantaneously across space.
Meaning there is no pre-written script. The Tokyo electron genuinely communicates its collapse to the Mars electron in real time, instantly.
Yeah.
But they aren't sending a radio signal. They aren't shooting invisible lasers at each other.
No, there is no physical transmission of data through the space between them. Rigorous experiments have proven entanglement is absolutely real, ruling out hidden variables entirely.
So how are they doing it?
They act as a single, unified entity that is simply smeared across the fabric of space-time.
Smeared across space-time. So the 140 million miles of physical distance between Tokyo and Mars means absolutely nothing to them.
It's irrelevant.
And this is the terror I really want to sit with because it breaks my fundamental understanding of what a place is. How does the universe coordinate this instantaneous balance without breaking causality?
The most prominent interpretation is profoundly unsettling. It implies that at a fundamental quantum level, space and distance might be entirely an illusion.
An illusion? You mean the space between things isn't real?
The concepts of here and there, of near and far, are macroscopic constructs. They are emergent properties that our brains use to navigate the physical world of trees and rocks and predators.
Right.
But to the entangled quantum particles, here and there simply do not exist. They're not separated by millions of miles because at the deepest level of reality, that distance is a geometric fiction.
A geometric fiction, that's heavy.
The universe doesn't have to send a signal across space because, to the entangled system, the space isn't actually there. It is all one point.
So what does this all mean? If distance is an illusion, if particles can borrow energy from nothing to teleport through solid concrete,
And if they possess angular momentum without having physical volume.
and if physical reality itself requires a conscious observer to collapse out of a wave of probability into solid matter, why do our brains reject this so hard?
It's a very natural reaction.
I mean, my instinct is to scream that this is all a math error. Why does it feel so deeply, intuitively wrong to even talk about this?
Because we have to confront the uncomfortable truth about our own biology. We are victims of our own evolutionary success.
This is the cognitive dissonance piece. I found this incredibly humbling. Our human brains, with all their immense complexity, evolved to do very specific things on this planet.
We evolved for survival.
Right. We evolved to throw rocks, to predict the parabolic trajectory of a spear, to hunt animals, and to not fall off cliffs. Our neural architecture is perfectly, exquisitely tuned to understand the physics of a macroscopic world. Rocks fall, lions run, water flows downwards.
Our brains evolved to process the physics of survival. They did not evolve to intuitively understand the quantum realm.
There's no reason we would need to.
There's absolutely no evolutionary advantage for a hominid on the African savanna to understand the superposition of an unobserved probability wave.
If you see a lion, the lion's there. You don't assume the lion is a wave function spanning all possible coordinates.
Exactly. Therefore, our brains simply lack the intuitive hardware to visualize quantum mechanics.
We are quite literally not built for this. We are apes trying to read the source code of the universe using brains designed to look for fruit.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains why physics has currently hit a massive conceptual wall. When we look at the electron, we are staring directly at the edge of human comprehension.
It's a wall we just can't climb over yet.
But we mentioned earlier that the math works perfectly, and it really does. Quantum mechanics is, without exaggeration, the most rigorously tested and flawlessly accurate scientific theory in human history.
It's important to emphasize that. We aren't just guessing. We use these bizarre, impossible equations every single day to build the modern world.
We rely on them.
We build MRI machines that save lives. We build precision lasers. We build the microchips inside smartphones. We build superconducting magnets. All of it is based entirely on the math of quantum mechanics. We know exactly how to mathematically manipulate the ghost.
And this is the crucial distinction. Equations only predict outcomes. They give us the formula to get a result.
But they don't tell us what's actually happening.
They do not explain the fundamental nature of the reality they are describing. The math gives us the how, but it remains utterly, deafeningly silent on the why.
And that leaves us with a list of massive, unanswerable questions that physics is currently just paralyzed by.
Some of the biggest questions imaginable.
Like, why does observation collapse the wave function? What is actually happening when a human eye or a digital sensor looks at that electron?
We don't know.
Are there multiple universes splitting off with every quantum choice, like the many worlds interpretation suggests?
Meaning every time an electron is measured as up, a parallel universe instantly branches off where it was measured as down.
Yeah, or is the electron not even a particle at all?
Quantum field theory suggests that particles don't exist as isolated objects, but rather as tiny temporary excitations, like little ripples in invisible universe-spanning quantum fields.
These aren't fringe sci-fi theories. These are the desperate attempts by the greatest minds on Earth to explain the data we are seeing in the labs.
The math is clear, the meaning is not.
We know the rules of the game. We can calculate the probabilities with astonishing precision, but we do not know who wrote the rules or why they are so spectacularly, wonderfully strange. The electron remains the ultimate trickster of the cosmos.
It is a ghost that literally powers our entire modern civilization while stubbornly refusing to reveal its true face.
And honestly, I think that is the perfect place to leave this exploration. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over.
Something that builds right out of the terrifying themes we've covered today.
Exactly. A lingering question about the nature of the observer. Think about everything we just talked about regarding the double-slit experiment.
The collapse of reality.
If the mere act of observation or measurement collapses the wave function, if the act of obtaining information forces reality to stop being a cloudy wave of probability and choose a physical, solid state. And if humans, you, me, everyone we know, our eyes, our brains are made entirely out of these exact same quantum particles, then what does that make human consciousness?
It creates the ultimate recursive loop. If particles need an observer to become real, what observes the observer?
Are we the universe's way of observing itself into physical existence? Is consciousness the mechanism that forces the cosmos to be real?
It's a chilling thought.
Or are we just temporary, entangled ghosts wandering through a mathematical illusion, desperately convincing ourselves that the walls we walk past are actually solid?
It is a question that physics cannot currently answer, and philosophy can only guess at.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the quantum ghost. We highly recommend looking deeper into the research on this.
It's a rabbit hole worth falling down.
It really is. And the next time you pick up your phone or save a file to a flash drive or simply feel the warmth of the sun on your face, we encourage you to pause. Remember the sheer impossibility of what is happening under the surface of reality, and never look at the device in your hands the same way again.